morning. Welcome back to the farm. We managed to avoid the frost the other night, but not since. All of the buckwheat that I planted is all toast, which is what I wanted, and it makes a good barometer for the temperature. The peppers I forgot to pick are also toast. So the stuff that's left in the garden is pretty cold tolerant. The leeks, the cabbage, the cauliflower, the broccoli is mostly done. The Brussels sprouts, that's the other one. So, and all the lettuce and spinach and kale that I put in, that's all fine for this colder weather. We aren't supposed to get a hard frost yet, but it was enough to do in all the tender stuff. As you can probably tell by the sky, it is wet here today and it is cold. It's only supposed to get up to 42 degrees. And it's supposed to be like that most of the week. So I have two major jobs that I need to get done and one medium job that I have to get done. I need to get this compost in the chicken yard turned because I've got the first batch is still sitting where I moved it that second time, and the second batch is still where I moved it the second time. So I need to get those moved along so I can get those out of the chicken yard so I can put down a thick layer of wood chips before winter just to absorb all of the nitrogen that's going to come off the yard over the winter. And I also need to put some of that on this pile to help this stuff break down. Although it's going to be in the wrong place. It's kind of going to be the inverse of where it should be. But just to hold it all in place for the winter. These guys are seeing their last days. I was planning to butcher them the end of the month. Just the black roosters. That was the intention with them from day one, that they were going to be my fall chickens for the freezer. I'm keeping the hen, and I'm going to keep one rooster, but we're seeing issues with the black roosters fighting each other and attacking the other chickens. So they may have to come out sooner than that. I'm giving them a reprieve for right now because I don't have the equipment that I need right now. Now, I'm only doing 4 chickens, so I'm not going to go the whole chicken plucker, all that route. But I would like to have a couple of kill cones. It just makes it easier on the chickens to do them in cones because they're held in snug and feel a little more protected while we're trying to gently end their lives. But I'm not doing that this week. It's too cold. It's too wet. I don't want to be struggling with my first time butchering chickens on my own in those kinds of environments. So today, until it starts raining again, because it is supposed to start raining again, I'm going to turn compost. And if and when I have to give up on that, we're going to move to the front porch and start working on the beds for that front garden that we were cleaning out. Let's get to work. Alright, so I got most of round 1 done. But the rain is starting, so the last bits are going to have to wait till later. But I wanted to show you, it's still got some work to do, but it's gone from being those big chunky wood chips and food scraps and all that to being not something I could put in the garden, but I could certainly put it on the garden as a mulch layer and let that finish breaking down. But I'm going to leave it here in the garden, and the chickens will keep working it. Oh, I'm definitely getting in out of this rain. The chickens will keep working on it, and I may just leave it over the winter and let it just finish cold composting over the winter, and then come spring I can either put it on the beds or put it in the beds or see what condition it's in. So I'm gonna get that under shelter. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna get inside. I'm gonna check for a couple of tools and pieces of hardware, and then we'll see about getting started on the garden beds. Come on. Good afternoon, and welcome back to the farm. I have been absent for the last few days. It has been miserably wet and cold. 40s isn't usually that cold to me, but with the wind and the rain, the real feel temperature, whatever that is, was 26. So I have had the fire going, and I have been curled up on the couch with tea and my latest binge watching as a complete couch potato. And it's still, at least we're getting blue skies now, but it still feels like the low 30s, so it's still pretty chilly. I've been giving the chickens scratch grains more regularly right now because it gives them the extra protein they need to help stay a little warmer. Chickens are fine in cold weather. They don't need heaters and such. They just need a shelter that it doesn't have a lot of drafts and is dry. So the chicken coop will do them plenty good. It's still hard to get motivated to do any of these outdoor jobs, but I was just looking around the garden, and a lot of the last bits and bobs are toast. The marigolds are all dead. The nasturtiums are all gone. The greens and the brassicas, they all look fine, but I would expect that. They don't mind the cold weather, so they'll be fine until it gets proper cold here. But I do need to get in and get some harvesting done. So I may do that this afternoon. I may start working on the garden beds. But again, it's still just so cold out that I don't have the motivation to get out and do anything. It is supposed to warm up. We are supposed to get back up into the 60s in the next couple of days. And so that'll be a little easier to work in. Like I said, I don't mind it being cold. I grew up in the Midwest, the upper Midwest, so cold is not something new to me. But the first couple of days of it is always rough, especially if you have to be outside. Normally, in cold weather, I like having the option of not going outside, and now that I'm a farmer, I don't always have that option. I do have enough warm clothes, and it'll all be fine. But having a couple of days to just veg on the couch and work on my knitting projects and watch TV is kind of unique in my life the last few years. So it's nice to have that downtime. And then this weekend is supposed to be back in the 60s and beautiful, just in time for me to go to the New York Sheep and Wool Festival in Rhinebeck, New York, which is a tradition for going back probably 7 or 8 years now. I'll be going alone this year, but I am looking forward to seeing what I can find this year. But that's a couple of days off. This is Tuesday, so I've got a couple of days, and I have another change to the household coming tomorrow. So we need to do some things to get ready for that. So let's see what we can get done. obviously I'm working on the raised beds. This is a variation on a raised bed design that I've used for years at my previous location, which is, in those cases, I used a 1x10, so 1 inch thick and 10 inches wide. And I would get a 12-foot board, cut it into 4-foot lengths, and screw them all together into a box, and boom, I've got a raised bed. And I just used plain bare wood, raw wood. I didn't get pressure treated because of the chemicals that they use for that, and I didn't worry about lining them or anything like that. And the ones I had, they were 10 years old before they even started showing signs of breaking down. So I'm not too worried about using the bare wood. Now, if you really were concerned about that, I would recommend looking into a process called Shushugiban, which is basically charring the wood surface with a blowtorch or a weed burner or something like that, just to make the surface charcoaly. And then I think they sand that down, and that gives it a more resistant surface that doesn't break down as easily. But I'm not going to worry about that today. Now, I have made 2 4-foot by 2-foot boxes, and you can see I didn't put a back end on them because that end is going to go up against the hillside, and so that'll hold in the material from the back side. Now, if I like this, I will probably have to put a back piece on the top box because there won't be the support on the top level that there is on the bottom level. But I know I need 4-foot boxes on the 2 sides, but I'm still trying to decide what length to do the top boxes. When I was playing with it with the level, it looked like a 4-foot box on top might actually work. So I'm going to take these 2 4-foot boxes over to where the garden is going to be and lay them out and just start to get a sense of what I need to adjust to make this work, and if I need to go with a smaller board length for those top boxes. Let's move these over and see what it looks like. I literally just stepped off the porch to set up the camera over by the garden, and it started raining. And you wouldn't know it by looking that way, but when you look that way, gray skies. And this has been how the last couple of days have been. Every time I've gone to try and do anything, it started raining on me. I'd be sitting at my desk and think, oh, I should go out and feed the chickens or pick the broccoli out of the garden or anything. And it was like the skies heard me and just opened up. And it looks like that's what we're seeing here right now. We'll give it 5 minutes and see if it decides to change its mind. And if not, I guess I'll be laying these out tomorrow. doesn't look too bad. I need to dig the back side of this into the ground a little bit and obviously put the divider up. And this gap here on either side, I'll need to figure out something to fill that in with. But I think for a first attempt, that is, I think we're gonna go with the 2 4-foots. And here comes the rain again. I think I'll call that for tonight, and I've got to run into town. Ooh, here it comes. I've got to run into town anyway, so I'll run in and get my errands done, and we'll come back out tomorrow, do this other bed, and see what we can figure out as far as filling those gaps with. If you have any ideas, stick them in the bottom, in below, because I may or may not have gotten to it by the time you see this.